Okay, now I'm ready, Julie.
So I will call the September 16th Commissioners' meeting to order. Today, Commissioner Smith will lead us in the pledge, and we are joined by our county engineer, John Kleindens, who will lead us in the invocation.
Please join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Morning. You'd be in an attitude of prayer, please. Lord, we praise you for the creation of this earth, our home, for the wide sky and the blessed sun, for the oceans and the streams, for the towering hills and the whispering wind, for the trees and the green grass. We thank you for the senses by which we hear the songs of birds and see the splendor of sunrise and new day and taste autumn's fruit and smell the breath of spring flowers. Grant us a heart opened wide to all this beauty and save us from being so blind that we pass unseeing when even the common thorn bush is aflame with your glory. For each new dawn is filled with infinite possibilities for new beginnings and new discoveries. We ask that you always remind us that from adversity comes opportunity, and that in this new day of new beginnings with you, all things are possible. Amen.
Okay, so we'll move on to item 4 on the agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda, items A through E, as listed below.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 5.
I make a motion to approve a contract agreement and HIPAA Business Associate Agreement between the County of York on behalf of the Area Agency on Aging and Giselle Joseph, M.D., York, Pennsylvania, to provide physical consultant services for a total cost of $3,216 for the period of July 1st, 2020 to June 30, 2021.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 6.
Make a motion to approve a contract agreement between the County of York on behalf of the Human Services Department and Contact Helpline, Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, to provide information and referral services to York County residents for a total cost of $34,820 for the period of July 1st, 2020 to June 30, 2021.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 7.
I make a motion to approve a contract agreement between the County of York on behalf of the Human Services Department and YWCA of York, York, Pennsylvania, to provide transitional housing services for survivors of domestic violence in the amounts of $30,283, homelessness assistance program CARES funds, and $150,914 in HAP funds.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 8.
Make a motion to approve a contract agreement between the County of York on behalf of the Human Resources Department and Collins Wagner Agency, Inc., York, Pennsylvania, to provide cyber liability insurance coverage for a total cost of $29,535 for the period of September 6, 2020 to September 6, 2021.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 9.
I make a motion to approve a contract agreement between the County of York on behalf of the Court Administration and LexisNexis, New York, New York, to provide LexisNexis legal research patron access for the York County Law Library for a total cost of $56,088 for the period of October 1st, 2020 to September 30th, 2022.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 10.
Motion to approve a contract agreement amendment between the County of York on behalf of the Treasurer's Office, Tyler Technologies, Moraine, Ohio, to implement and configure Tyler cashiering with IAS World.
I'll second the motion.
I have a motion and a second.
And Barb, reading this motion, could you explain what this is doing?
I would be happy to. The Treasurer's Office currently uses Tyler Cashiering as our cashiering function program, and there is the ability for integration with Tyler Cashiering, or with Tyler IAS World, which is the tax collection software that the Treasurer's Office uses and also that the Tax Claim Bureau uses. And so this configuration will set up all of our payment types and so that one system talks to the other system. But there will be no ongoing expense because we already have both systems in place. So we expect this to improve our efficiency.
Okay, good.
Any other questions for Barb? Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 11.
Motion to amend the previously approved submission of the 2021-2022 Children, Youth, and Families Needs-Based Plan and Budget on behalf of the York County Office of Children, Youth, and Families to the Pennsylvania Department of Human Services Office of Children, Youth, and Families, Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, to the amount of $63,588,733 for the period of July 1st, 2021 through July 30th, 2022.
I'll second the motion.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I think this was on like a week or two ago that we discussed, and this is just amending the amount of money that they've taken care of.
Yes.
Okay.
Any further comments? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 12.
Motion to approve Resolution 2020-26 on behalf of the Community Development Department, York County Planning Commission, to approve the following changes to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, Washington, D.C. funded Community Development Block Grant and Emergency Solutions Grant Program funded activities, as approved in the York County 2019 Annual Action Plan, as amended and listed below.
I'll second the motion.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 13.
Motion to increase the 2020 allocation to York County Economic Alliance by $1 million to cover the costs and expenses related to the Yoko Strong Recovery Task Force work and the Yoko Strong Recovery Fund grant administration cost. Such increase requires the YCEA to make direct payments to all third-party vendors contracted for this project, including but not limited to the CDFI Community First Foundation.
I'll second the motion.
I have a motion and a second. I know we have the Economic Alliance here today to share a few comments.
Sure. Thank you, Commissioners. My name is Kevin Schreiber, President and CEO of the York County Economic Alliance, and just here to offer our appreciation for the continued partnership with our county government to best assist all of her residents, her businesses, and her nonprofit organizations along the pathway to recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic. We are very grateful for the financial support of the county, as denoted and set forth in this motion. The county support will be shared approximately $510,000 to the York County Economic Alliance and $490,000 to Community First Fund. I have provided an extensive and probably far too verbose summary of our work together over these past 6 months. It's included in your packets, going back to the earliest days of this pandemic in March. So I will not belabor all of what is listed in there. You can certainly read it, and I'm sure everyone will at their leisure and probably multiple times, and take lots of notes and maybe read it to their significant other. But I would like to offer a couple quick highlights. Over the past 6 months, we have dedicated and redeployed our York County Economic Alliance team, of which we've got a couple members here today, to respond to this economic and health crisis. First with triage and treatment, and then later assisting in the steps towards recovery. It began, which feels like ages ago, with the launch of PreparedYork.com. It evolved into our administrative support and help with facilitation of the Yoko Strong Recovery Task Force. And it continues today through CARES Act allocations and the Restart grant program. Merely to offer a couple additional highlights, PreparedYork.com was launched on March 15th to assist anyone economically impacted by COVID-19. And since its launch, it has received over 366,000 visitors, with small business support and recovery being the top 2 pages that are visited within the site. We've distributed over 90 email e-newsletters, first on a daily basis, and I'm sure many of you received those updates. And this was really more critical in the days in the height of the pandemic when information was changing rapidly, and our team was doing its best job to distill all of that information and communicate it out in public service announcement fashion. Both Pennsylvania Emergency Management, PEMA, and a National Chamber of Commerce Association have showcased Prepared York as a national model for communities during crisis communication. In April, the York County, the YOCO Strong Recovery Task Force was launched. Several members of our team provided staff support to the 13 committees that were established, including our very own Vice President of Economic and Community Development, Silas Chamberlain, serving a role of overarching facilitation over a 30-day process that resulted in a report that has been held up by other counties as a best practice to emulate. Around the same time, simultaneously, we launched www.yocostrong.org to solicit public input and house the final Recovery Task Force report, and ultimately utilize that site to disseminate information on CARES Act allocations to follow. And since then, we have repurposed yocostrong.org to provide information on the Restart program, and to date, that has received over 250,000 visitors. Soon thereafter came CARES Act funding to York County, and our team was tasked with providing compliance assistance and to the direct allocation recipients, such as nonprofits and local governments, and in the development, marketing, outreach, and application assistance and compliance for what would then become the YOCO Strong Restart Grant Program. And since its launch, our team has conducted extensive outreach, technical assistance, and application, awareness building, and direct marketing for that Restart program. Over the course of 1 month, 9 webinars, 15 stakeholder presentations, 15 physical business walks, representing 35 hours of canvassing, were conducted in 11 strategic locations, ranging from Dillsburg to Hanover, Shrewsbury, Dover, New Freedom, West Manny, Delta, Red Line, and of course in York City. We hosted now more than 20 sessions of open office hours, all done responsibly, following CDC and Department of Health guidelines to socially distance. But this was really to directly assist applicants and provide free use of printers, scanners, computers with our team's assistance. And it is all that level of personal outreach that we believe is a difference maker and considerable value add for all of these efforts. Meeting on-site at business locations, providing Spanish translation with individuals via FaceTime, to quite literally burning the midnight oil, remaining in the office until 11:30 at night on this past Friday to ensure applicants' applications were submitted before the midnight deadline. We have a significant amount of work yet ahead, as we all know, to complete this grant program through award and to ensure compliance with CARES Act allocations through the end of this year. This is all the technical stuff, but what the underlying motivation throughout all of these efforts has been is to assist in the economic recovery of our county. Your support helps underwrite all of these efforts. It supports the work of Community First Fund, and this was all just the very short version. Sadly, our crystal ball does remain cloudy. We cannot predict what the remainder of this year will look like, or certainly into 2021 and what that will bring, but we can predict with certainty that the impact of COVID will extend beyond this calendar year. It will extend beyond CARES Act deadlines, and we are proud for the work that the team has done to date. We're proud of the partnership that we've had with the county government, and we're proud of what this partnership has brought to bear during unprecedented circumstances. So we look forward to continued partnership with each and every one of you to leverage the resources to foster the solutions to provide meaningful impact and expedite our county's recovery. Happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's obvious that, you know, your organization has put a lot of time and effort going back to March when this started, and I know you had your other work to do. And with the CARES funding that came to the county, the $40.5 million, we certainly looked at other counties, and I know Lancaster had gotten money previously under a different type of allocation directly from the federal government, how they implemented these services. And I certainly understand that some of this money is going to pay for the administration of the small business loan program and for the nonprofits. And the advertising and communication and the work behind the allocation, the review process, the recommendations. So I think we really appreciate that. And I think the public needs to understand that this allocation is going to different organizations for all the time, effort, and work they put in to help us eventually make the decisions that's going to put money back into the economy through the small businesses and a nonprofit organization. So I appreciate your efforts. I know you've worked hard. I know the commissioners have gone out on several different days and met with the different business owners to discuss this program, and I think it's been a huge success. I'll be anxious to hear the numbers as far as, how many applications we got, what the requests have been as far as the allocation of funds we've already put forth. But I think you've done a great job, and I commend your organization for it.
Thanks, Commissioner.
Yeah, Kevin, I'd like to mimic a little bit of what Commissioner Hoke said. I appreciate how professional your team has been, how transparent your team has been through this whole process, this whole endeavor, actually. And you guys have done a very good job. You've been on top of your A game this entire time. And I just think that the public needs to know, how well you've done it, and especially how transparent this whole process has been, and it will continue to be moving to the end. Thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner.
Yep, not much to add to that, just that collaboration is very important, especially in this day and age, and so just really appreciate the collaboration between the Economic Alliance and the county. So,
Thank you.
if there's no further discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 14.
Motion to approve a tax refund register 2020-14 authorizing payment of York County real estate tax refunds totaling $993.63.
I'll second the motion.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 15.
Motion to approve the check register for the week of September 9th, 2020, totaling $6,439,417.64.
I'll second the motion.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 16.
Motion to approve the check register for the week of September 16th, 2020, totaling $8,130,997.81.
I'll second the motion.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And we do have an additional motion that Commissioner Smith is going to read.
Motion to approve a contract agreement on behalf of the Facilities Management Department and Masonry Preservation Services Incorporated, Bloomsburg, Pennsylvania, for the ongoing repair and long-term preservation of the 3 historic terracotta-clad domes of the county's admin center for an estimated cost of $34,700.
I'll second the motion.
I have a motion and a second. I know our facilities director is not here today, but he has been to several commissioners' meetings updating us and the public on the necessary repairs and preventative measures to protect the domes on this building. So, all right. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the list, report of executive sessions. We did have several executive sessions between our last meeting. These were related to personnel matters regarding 911 and the elections office. We'll move on to other business. We'll start with CARES. That's been a standing item for us under other business. I think if we could get an update from the Economic Alliance on the grant process that Kevin mentioned earlier, that would be great, and any other information that you'd like to share with us.
Sure. I won't take as long this time. And I'll turn it over to Silas in a second here. As noted, as was discussed, the grant portal was launched on August 28th, and it did close on September 11th at 11:59 p.m. And since then, we have been working with applicants who are in the process of still ensuring that they have uploaded their correct documents in a correct fashion. But to date, it is safe to say that we have had over 1,100 applications, and that the total application request will most assuredly exceed the original amount that had been allocated by the commissioners, which was $14 million, spread over $10 million and $4 million small business, or for-profit and for nonprofit. So we're still, as I noted, we're still kind of working through all of those applications, determining eligibility, the final amount that has been requested, and we should have that in the very near future. But I will share, and again, kind of testament to my earlier comments with respect to the outreach that had occurred over the past several weeks throughout the county, working with the commissioners and with our other legislative offices, municipal offices. We were able to produce a map that basically identifies where all applications came from. And I think as of right now, it's safe to say, Silas, you're going to correct. I think we have applications from 70 of 72 municipalities, which is pretty darn good.
High 60s.
High 60s. All right, high 60s. We're close. We're close. But I will hand this around to the commissioners. And again, so asking for a little bit of time as we kind of work through all of those applications. As we know, applications, any type of application is a onerous process for applicants. So as noted, the application portal did close. We anticipated that we would still have to work with some applicants with technology difficulties or ensuring that the correct documents were uploaded to the correct portal and things of that nature. So the next step, we actually anticipate doing much of that this week, and then we'll really begin sort of the scoring and the allocation process in earnest next week, and hope to have an award list back to the commissioners by end of September, early October, so that we can begin those awards hopefully with alacrity in early and mid-October.
And Mark, once the awards are recommended and we review them and make a decision, does the county send the checks out, or how does that work? Huh?
The controller's office, we'd authorize the checks, put a check request through, and then the controller's office would prepare the checks.
Okay.
And as part of the application process, information has already been requested. So as soon as the grantees are identified, checks can be immediately sent. So there
Good.
shouldn't be any lag time.
Right, and recall, at this stage right now, we're really working through a lot of the fraud protection, the eligibility certifications, ensuring all of the applicants' truthfulness and things of that nature to be compliant with CARES Act.
And they do an attestation or something?
Yes,
with the,
yeah, they have to do an attestation of a number of things upon submission of the application, and then they'll be asked to do one again upon the actual grant award.
We thanks for your diligence. I mean, the three commissioners certainly wanted this process to not be first come, first serve, and we wanted everybody to be able to put their best foot forward. So thanks for working with those last few applicants for their final information.
And again, the impact that this will have will be, it will be real, it will be positive, and we have received a lot of very positive accolades from applicants, just that the commissioners have taken this type of step to provide this type of funding right now. So thank you.
Any additional questions for Kevin?
Yeah, so there's 1,100 red dots on here, right?
Well, there might be blurred together in some concentrated areas. If you can count them, Doug. Yes.
Is this something you guys will post on
Yes,
the website?
yeah.
Because it is, I think folks would find it interesting.
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
this was the first pass of it, and as I noted, we still have to kind of determine the final amount of all of those eligible
And
applications.
these are
But
the small business and the nonprofits?
that's small business and nonprofit, yes, yeah. But again, I think what that story really tells is the outreach worked. All of those efforts that we had asked commissioners and other elected officials and a host of partner organizations to walk blocks by block and meet with businesses and nonprofits in a variety of communities, it really was part of that difference maker. And as a result, you can see it in where those applications came from.
So at our last commissioners meeting, we just briefly gave an update on the feasibility study for a countywide health department. I think there's some folks here today just to give us an update on the feasibility study for broadband.
Yes, I'll turn it over to Silas.
Just working through some technical issues.
that's coming up, I just want to say that the map that y'all have in front of you was created by the York County Planning Commission. So Tanya and Wade over at the Planning Commission have indulged me a couple times throughout this process in geocoding this long list of gnarly looking addresses that weren't entered correctly and cleaning it all up and mapping it and then mapping it again. So if anybody from the Planning Commission is watching, we appreciate their partnership on that.
They're really good at maps. While you're pulling up that, why don't I give an update on elections while that's
that'd be
getting
great.
pulled up. So as I mentioned at the last meeting, the commissioners wanted to continue our communications at each meeting on what's going on with the elections. A couple things. On our county website, actually right on the homepage, there's a link. We have an ongoing list of frequently asked questions. So as a first line, before you call in to the elections office, if you do have access to the internet, we would suggest that you go there. There are many questions that have answers to that we get frequently asked down in the elections department. We will continue. That will be an ongoing list, a work in progress, and we will continue to update that. But that's a great resource for answers to many of your questions. We have been getting a lot of calls over the past week regarding some mailers that are being sent out that have mail-in ballot form attached to them. The county is not doing any mailing regarding mail-in ballots. Those letters, ballots that you're getting in the mail are from third-party vendors. So we just wanted you to be aware that that's not something that was driven out of the Commissioner's Office or the Board of Elections. There are other entities out there that want to ensure that folks who want to vote by mail have the opportunity to do that. But we wanted to let everyone know that those are not coming from the Elections Department. As of to date, the deadline for registration changes, whether that's a party change, a name change, or an address change, is October 11th. The County Board of Elections has thus far processed 27,000 voter registrations. There's roughly 2,000 that are in the queue to be processed this week. So we continue to process those. In addition, the deadline as of to date is October 27th to request a mail-in and or absentee ballot. That date has not yet changed. We do know that there is legislation that is being discussed up in Harrisburg, but as of today, those two dates for registration deadline and mail-in ballot, absentee ballot deadlines have not yet changed. We also had shared with the public at the last meeting that we are going to outsource the front end part of the process of actual mailing out the ballots to voters who've requested those. I'm happy to say that we've actually had a couple pilot runs with the mail house company to ensure that the data is getting pushed over in a manner that they can receive it and download it. So we've done our homework on the front end there, and we're really confident that when the ballot is approved by the state, we are ready to go. In the queue to be sent out, we have 45,000 ballots that are already there and waiting to go. So as soon as the ballot is approved by the state, 45,000 will be sent out. In addition, we have an additional 23,000 ballots that we are working on getting set up to be a part of that process. So we will continue to update you. Again, if you do choose to vote by mail, we would encourage you to get your request in sooner rather than later. So I think those were all the things related to elections. It looks like Silas is ready, so I'll turn it over to Silas.
All right. Thank you, Commissioners, for the opportunity to keep talking about broadband. As you know, it was part of the Yoko Strong Recovery Task Force, and we've been working on evaluating a number of options for how to work with broadband under the CARES Act, and we have a proposal for you today for a pilot project. Before we talk about the details of the pilot project, just to refresh your memory, that the task force came back and said that broadband was of critical importance during the COVID-19 pandemic on two fronts. One, in just the affordability of accessing broadband, and also in, depending on where you're at in the county, just access to physical infrastructure for broadband and providers that can use that infrastructure. So we've been concerned about it since that report and have been digging into ways to address it. In early August, you allocated $150,000 for a feasibility study to look countywide at opportunities to address both of those gaps, and we've been working with lit communities and Catapult since then to start that process. But another part of the CARES Act emphasizes the actual implementation of broadband, really moving beyond feasibility studies and doing pilot projects. The major caveat that goes along with that is the ability to actually do that pilot project before the end of 2020, because no matter what type of CARES Act funds you're talking about, they must be expended by the end of the year. So with that in mind, we've been working closely with our partners at Catapult, and Catapult is here represented by Isaac Tucker today. Catapult is based in Dillsburg, and very savvy engineers, very forward-thinking, do software development, work with many of our utilities, and have a lot of expertise to bring to the table. And they've also leveraged their partnership with Lit Communities, which is a national company that helps regions stand up fiber optic networks for broadband, and the business plans that help maintain them and operate them over time. So this is our partnership team. And in working with them, we have come to the conclusion that the best pilot project that could be completed by the end of 2020 is to install 32 miles of fiber in the conduit that currently exists under the alignment of the Heritage Rail Trail. This is conduit that was buried several decades ago. With a lot of foresight that the need could arise for a corridor like this. It's all on publicly owned county land, and the conduit is owned by the county. And we are looking at a connection that would run from roughly, if you can picture the northern end of York College's campus where the crematorium is, where Penn Street comes into the rail trail, starting there and moving south the entire way to New Freedom, connecting the city of York, Seven Valleys, Glen Rock, Railroad, and New Freedom along the way, along with the residential areas that it passes through. In 4 of those communities, it's the City of York, Seven Valleys, Glen Rock, and New Freedom, we'd also be affixing wireless antennas and potentially hotspots as well to provide public wireless internet as part of the project, all by the end of the year. So why this corridor? Of course, the county already owns it, both the conduit and the land. That dramatically increases the speed at which we can work and the cost, lowers the cost substantially. It also streamlines design and permitting and construction. We did explore at least 2 other potential corridors in the county that also would address areas of need, but could not be completed by the end of 2020. So they'll become parts of the long-term countywide study and obviously be addressed in future phases. And we believe that this corridor provides the opportunity to build. So yes, we're building it now to address needs during COVID, but it'll become the spine of a fiber network that then can expand into other parts of the county. The other key consideration is that when you're looking at enticing internet providers into an area, it's a fine balance between serving a rural area or a small town that doesn't currently have access, but also at the same time has enough customers that an internet service provider is willing to come into the market. We believe this corridor achieves both those things. So the impact of implementing the pilot project would be a high-speed dark fiber backbone from which you could build other networks. It's already owned by the county, and as you'll see in a moment, it's a revenue-producing asset. So not only is it addressing emergency need, but it becomes something that the county owns over a long period of time and can drive to revenue. It provides broadband access and public wireless to portions of York City, and then the 4 boroughs to the south, all of which are currently underserved in different ways by broadband. It becomes the backbone for future phases of deployment. One of those connections that we're hopeful can be made in future years is from roughly the railroad area off of this spine, moving eastward towards Southeastern School District, Johnson Controls, and communities in southeastern York County that are not currently served and that we couldn't serve in a pilot project that had to be completed by the end of this year. It also creates the opportunity to lease additional fiber capacity through the pilot project. So the revenue models that I show you in just a moment is just on what we'll be able to complete this year, but there's obviously more potential to lease fiber as it's built over time. So the rough timeline is that if you would approve the funds to move forward with the pilot project today, engineering design would begin immediately, as would the development of bid packages for the construction and equipment purchases, which would occur in October. In October and December would be the construction period, and then the goal would be activating the broadband and the wireless antennas in December, which would meet the requirements of the CARES Act to show a benefit in 2020 before the funds are expended. So it's obviously an ambitious timeline, which is one of the reasons why we've chosen a county-owned corridor and existing conduit to help make that possible. So the cost of these 32 miles and the equipment that goes along with it is roughly $4.7 million. You can see in the asterisks the portions of the budget that have to be publicly bid, and therefore we won't know the final cost of those until we've gone through that public bidding process and the county's gone through that process. And the rest are professional services that will be provided by LIT and by Catapult, who have national expertise in this. From an operating perspective, the maintenance on this corridor, even though it's 32 miles, it's not an above-ground corridor where you'd have to worry about cars crashing into poles or trees falling on wires. It's buried for the most part, so that really significantly lowers the maintenance. It's also on park property, so there isn't active development typically along that corridor. And it's also adjacent to other buried utilities, so that anybody digging in that area would already be focused on what's buried there and avoiding it. So we're estimating, and this is actually inflating what our real estimates are, we're estimating somewhere around $12,000 a year to maintain it. And then being able to lease just the fibers that will be installed this year for roughly $38,000 a year, which would net the county, even off of this pilot project, $26,000 annually. That's if this is the only thing you ever do and you never build future phases, you never add more fiber. Obviously, as you do that, that revenue number goes up. But the important thing about this slide is showing that it's not going to be a revenue drain it's not a cost for the county going forward. It actually does provide some revenue. So back to the budget. Our request would be support to fund this pilot project. You can see it's $4,712,122. I was a historian, not a mathematician. As a total cost, all in on the professional services and the construction and the equipment. Obviously, we are hopeful that the numbers will come in just at that, but would ask for an approval of an amount just above so that there's some wiggle room when that public bidding comes back to ensure we can move forward. And obviously, your allocation today would allow us to move forward on key aspects of this, but the county would still be approving the contracts from the public bids. And so there is another level of approving that would happen as part of this process.
Okay.
So any questions?
I don't know, should I ask questions? I would like to make a motion, but I'll ask questions first. Just two things, and more for the public, the general public. These 32 miles are extremely popular with the public for utilization and use. So my question is, if we would move forward with this project, what kind of interruption would there be on the rail trail use for the public, and how long it might affect that?
Right, and Isaac and I had this conversation earlier today, actually. The corridor, the actual corridor itself is 26 miles long of rail trail. The observation so far has been most of the conduit is actually offset from the trail surface, so directly building into the trail is going to be limited. And you're pulling fiber through a conduit, so you're not trenching the entire, 30 miles. You're entering at certain points, pulling fiber through. So there could be times where certain areas of the trail are restricted or totally closed periodically, but obviously when we're talking about a timeline that's only 6 or 8 weeks long, that's going to be limited. And from what we anticipate, there'd be no time when, long sections of the trail would be closed. And obviously we'd be repairing anything that's disturbed as part of the project.
Another question, and somebody who's not IT savvy, and I know I've asked these questions before, for the public to understand, when you talk about putting in the conduit and the availability of broadband service going for these miles, and you talk about a revenue source for, maintaining it, coming from leases, who are the type of people that would lease this type of equipment?
So it's sort of like a field of dreams scenario where the infrastructure is in high demand. So it would be internet service providers you probably heard of, Verizon, Comcast, Blue Ridge. It would really be the county's opportunity to solicit proposals for a partnership and pick the one that offers the best terms for a lease. So you'll have the asset, they want the asset so they can expand service to homes and businesses in that area, and then you would negotiate the terms of the lease from there. But chances are it'll be names that you recognize that are interested in it. But LIT and Catapult, as part of their business planning, will also show you some other models where you could choose to work with companies outside the area. There's also models where you could create, you're probably familiar with Northern Pennsylvania. They have a couple regional co-ops based around broadband. So there's a bunch of different models, but it's one of those things where once the asset is there, you'll have people coming to you probably for use.
Given the time sensitivity and a lot of activity, engineering and scope of work, things that have to be bid out, should we decide to move forward, I would suggest that you regularly come to our commissioners meeting and give us an update so that we're apprised and the public is apprised.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep.
And I know this question isn't for you, but maybe for Mark or Michelle. And I know the restrictions on the money for the expenditure by the end of this year is by the federal government?
Yes.
Or by the state? Because to me, it almost seems like they're asking us to do a lot of these things, and these time constraints are almost crazy. That we're putting in something that's been asked for by the community, by the state government, and the broadband expansion has been a very popular subject. And to say that we have to do all this in this constrained time frame of the end of December of 2020, what should we be reconsidered?
The federal government has actually placed those restrictions on the CARES Act funding, and then DCED is kind of the enforcement arm for the federal government. The counties that had populations of over $500,000 got allocations directly from the federal government. Those counties that had populations less than $500,000, the money was allocated to the population, I'm sorry, population less than $500,000, received allocations from the state who received the money directly from the federal government.
Okay.
So the initial restrictions came from the federal government, and then the state, when they allocated to the county, put on additional restrictions.
There are some federal lobbying groups and advocacy groups that are trying to push for those extensions because particularly projects like this, we believe that this, and we're sure this can get done this year, but if we were proposing something even more complex or one of the other corridors, it would give you more ability to be flexible in your approach if you had more time. But right now, we're just assuming it's last day of December, this has to be activated and ready to go.
All right. Okay.
Questions for Silas?
Okay, well, I'd like to make a motion, if I could. I make a motion to authorize an allocation of up to $5 million from the CARES Act fund for a broadband expansion pilot project in York County intended to expand service along the rail trail from York City to New Freedom.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Yes. I just want to be absolutely clear that this is only a vote to authorize moving forward to look at to put them out for contract for bid. And then once they come back in, we also then will have to make a decision whether we move forward. So I just want to be clear on that.
Right.
And that goes to my comment earlier that our expectation would be that you come to every
Absolutely.
commissioner meeting subsequent to today, should we approve the motion, to give us an update. We certainly know that this is something really important to our community and, want to be supportive moving forward, but we also need to be diligent and purposeful in those things.
Absolutely.
And you had a timeline that said how quickly will the RFP process or the bid process work?
Well, we're estimating early October to have the bid packages together. If if we can start moving today, pretty much.
Any further questions for Silas? Mark, just to double check, any questions on your end? Okay, so I have a motion and a second. If there's no further discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
You have your work cut out for you. I have two other things on the list. One, we're joined by, again, John Kleindentz, if I could ask him to come up here. The three commissioners joined John Kleindentz, the Planning Commission, along with some others, to cut a ribbon at a new bridge the county has rehabilitated. Is that the right word? It's Bridge
Sure.
274.
Sure. We actually had two bridges that were completed, started many years ago, were completed this year in the continuing effort by the county to bring all your bridges up to speed. The one was 226, and that was probably a couple of months ago up in Washington Township, and then just recently 274 down in New Freedom Borough. And I think we were all very pleasantly surprised at the number of people that showed up, the public, local officials, et cetera. And so it was a show and tell opportunity to cut the ribbon, and obviously the subject to show was the bridge itself. But as part of the ribbon cutting, the design team prepared poster boards, and they were posted on an easel at the site, and we used them.
Could turn it so they can get a picture?
I'll put one on each side. How's that?
Okay.
So the poster board, I'll use Vanna. So we have one for 274, one for 226. These were from the presentation. They're surplus, if you will, so we're giving these to the county to do whatever you would like with them. They're actually nice presentation boards with nice facts on them. So I think they were both great projects, both rehabilitations of historic bridges, and I think they came out very well, as the commissioners can attest to. So thank you. These are for the commissioners.
And I think the residents in those communities are pretty happy.
Yep.
And then in addition to bridges, the Board of Commissioners does want to thank the Friends of Sheepford Road Bridge who attended a public meeting last night. We appreciate their comments and their passion for their bridge. So the three of us wanted to publicly thank them for their time last evening. We were here pretty late into the evening and had a lot of discussion. So if they're watching, we thank you for coming. And then I believe that Mark Walters has an update from Felicia Dell, the Planning Commission.
Thank you. Yes, as you mentioned, this is on behalf of the Planning Commission. Conewago, East Manchester, and Manchester Townships, along with Manchester Borough, are working together to prepare a land use plan for properties in the vicinity of the proposed, emphasis, proposed exit 26 interchange at Canal Road on Interstate 83. This is the long-discussed Interstate 83 exit that would be between Emmetsville and Strinestown exits. The first of three public meetings will be conducted virtually on Wednesday, September 23rd, beginning at 6:30 p.m. Register for the virtual public meeting at www.i83exit26.com. Again, i83exit26.com. I will post that link on the Facebook feed of this meeting when I get done here. If you're unable to attend the virtual public meeting, call 717-771-9870 or email planner@ycpc.org to determine other options for participation. There's also a survey posted at that website. Again, i83exit26.com. Thank you.
Any other business? Okay. Any public comment?
Commissioners, thank you. I wasn't actually planning to come up here.
For public comment, we'll need to identify your name and where you're from.
Yep, Isaac
Okay.
Tucker, Dillsburg Borough. I actually sit on Dillsburg Borough Council, and I just want to make a few comments. First, there's always a sense of there's always a sense of folks up in northern York County not appreciating York City and the county of York sometimes. They feel like they get left out of a lot of things. And I got the opportunity to walk our town with members of the York County Economic Alliance for the Restart Recovery Project. and talk with business owners. I walked it with State Representative Don Kiefer, and we got to meet with business owners and talk to them, and turns out a lot of them applied and are working through the process. So that was a really awesome collaboration that really included Dillsburg, and I'm really appreciative of that happening. Second, also appreciate the work and efforts that York County Economic Alliance is doing with Catapult and LIT, obviously. And third, which I wasn't even planning on saying, my sister's house is actually right next to the Hull Drive Bridge. And I want to say that they did a fantastic job. They respected the property and the crews there. Sometimes it can be a really dirty and difficult process. And they did a fantastic job completely restoring the bridge and cleaning up and making the property very beautiful. So that was all I had to say. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Any additional comments? Okay, if I could have a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
Motion a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned. For folks watching, please continue to be safe and be well out there. And we will move on to Salary Board.
I make a motion to approve the positions, salaries, hours of work, and fringe benefits as provided by existing collective bargaining agreements or as set forth in the York County Employee Handbook or York County Policy Manual for the following departments and row office with no other additional benefits or concessions unless otherwise noted as stated in the internal salary board detail. Department 5, voter registration and elections. Department 61, court administration. Department 66, magisterial district justice. Department 70, emergency 911, and Department 71, emergency management agency. And the row office is Department 53, pathonetary.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second. You beat me.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned. And moving on to Retirement Board.
Motion to approve the minutes of the previous meeting held on September 2nd, 2020 as submitted.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries.
Motion to include the following vested individual on the monthly annuity payment list as listed below. Elizabeth De La O, DA's office.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Motion to include the following individuals on the monthly annuity payment list as listed below. Yvonne Berkins, probation. Ray DeShields, MHIDD. Susan A. Harvey, MHIDD. Brandon M. Miller, prison. Joyce O. Scott, probation. Kathy A. Sell, probation. Joseph M. Silo II, prison. Cindy A. Schweitzer, probation. Christine M. Tompkins, treasurer. Timothy J. Turek, prison.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
There's one in the back.
Oh, I'm sorry. Motion to include the following alternative pay on the monthly annuity payment list as listed below. Linda L. Turek, she was in no department, NA.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
There were no executive sessions?
Period of public comment. Okay.
I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second?
A motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned, and thank you, everyone who stuck with us to watch. Have a great day.